Welcome to rBeatz.com, and you're here joining us on Local Music Somewhere here in the rBeatz studio. And we've had a lot of great guests on Local Music Somewhere. This might be my top show of the year that I've done so far because I have a special guest he's been my mentor and in music in several ways. I've actually used to be able to sell a lot of his DVDs and back when DVDs were a thing, he used to sell his sets to a lot of our clients, and we worked with him with our artist and artist management. He is a live music producer, and we'll discuss what a live music producer is on this show. And he is the cream of the crop. His clients have included Shawn Mendes, the band Perry, and Taylor Swift, and then he also has a book about performance that's called The Live Music Method, and he has a video series as well that we'll be discussing. And his name is Tom Jackson, so welcome to the show, Tom.
Good to be here.
Glad to be here. Yeah, well, it's great to actually have you on this show. I've known you for years, and I told you when we were off the air that I remembered yesterday how we met. And what it was is when they used to have the GMA conferences, the week of the Dove Awards, and they would have the seminars and all that, when you would have the booth area, we would always, in our booth, we would have this setup that either looked like a soda fountain or it looked like a living room. This particular one looked like a living room, and then you walked out of your seminar and you were like, I'm worn out. Can I just sit and hang on your couch? So you came and sat down, and then I think it was the lead singer of the group Jars of Clay, who were pretty new at the time, came in and saw you sitting there, and he just started talking to you about the live performance. And up to that point, I had no idea who you were or what you did, and I heard you talking. I was like, really? They have a guy that puts the performance together? I didn't even know that was a thing back then when I was first starting. And over the years, I've seen it is the most important thing to have. And so you are a live music producer. Tell us more about what a live music producer is.
My job's to create moments in the show. Most people will play songs and hope something good happens. My job is to create an experience from beginning to end, so that it's memorable for the people.
And when I've told people before that you were a live music producer, they were saying like a choreographer. I was like, two totally different things.
No, totally not a choreographer.
Yeah.
I actually spent probably most people write songs for radio, and that's exactly what radio should be. They're short songs, 2.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes to get on the radio that goes out. But live, you don't need to do that. In fact, no one goes to a concert, not no one, that's not entirely true, but the idea is to take those songs and create moments out of them instead of just play songs the way they are on the radio. Every once in a while, a song will create a moment, but my job is to go in and take each song and create some sort of moment out of it, a touching moment, a fun moment, musical moment, vocal moment. I listen to the songs and then I rearrange them so that those moments come out in a show.
Yeah, and for a lot of aspiring musicians that listen, or maybe even audience members, radio and live being different, when you have a song that hits at radio, it's usually it fits in a drive time segment, and so those are generally a certain speed, like a medium fast speed, which I think you call a 3 or 3.5 or something like that. And in that, if you go to that concert and they have 10 radio hits and they play them just like on the radio, you would be bored out of your mind. And so being able to take those and change the speed and add a different moment in it, I mean, you've added different instruments and everything. It's a game changer, and it's what makes the concert worth going to.
Well, hopefully.
Well, it is. I mean, ticket prices are high now, my friend, and a concert has to be worth. Some people, they budget now. They can only go to 2 or 3 concerts a year, depending on the artist, on the major stages. I know you work with, everybody from. You've worked with people from club level, church level, big church level, all the way up to major stadiums, And with that, people show up. It's got to be that memory, and you've been a big reason for that.
Well, a memory is one thing. That's for the audience. For the artist, though, it's also it's a marketing tool, like you've said.
Right.
And to me, if you create those moments for the artist, then and you build your merchandise around those moments you created, your merchandise sales will go up.
That was something I learned from you, especially on the last song. If you end with, I believe you said a faster or medium to fast song, but a faster song, you tend to sell more product.
Well, but people say what we're really talking about mostly is encores. So a lot of people like to come back out with an encore, do something really touching, which is fine. But I've just noticed that when they come back, if you're going to do one song, do two, do a touching song, and then finish up because more products will be sold. It's just there's a psychology. It's like going into a grocery store. Where do you put things and why do you put them there? And it's the same thing with your songs, how you present it, um, and how you construct your show. It's something like a TV show, or if that's a 30-minute TV show. If you're playing 30 minutes, if you're doing a movie, it's an hour 15 minutes long, and and you just create those moments, build the merchandise around those moments, and you will sell a lot more product. When I first did Taylor Swift, she'd gone out on tour with Brad Paisley and came back, found me through my friend, the vocal coach, Brett Manning.
Oh, love Brett.
Yeah. And he turned me on to her on to me, and we worked together. And the second half of that tour, all we did was take the exact same songs that she'd been playing on the first half of the tour, but we created moments out of them and staged it, took her off her headset microphone on every song, and her merchandise went up 600%.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that, because I've seen that work with the artists that you've worked with us, because once I met you, then we set up a meeting at Shawnee's, and then we started having you work with our artists as well. And of course,
Wow.
that's been a while for sure. I don't even know if that Shawnee's exists anymore.
It
And then, of
doesn't.
course,
Everyone would go and have their bus stop and all that, but no, it doesn't exist.
yeah. And then, of course, then you and I were teaching on some of the same events, like the ones that we talked about in Orlando. In fact, we briefly touched on this before the show, but TLC followed me. The TLC network followed me when I was on those circuits teaching, and there was one episode where they were having me take two cousins. One of them wanted to be an artist, one of them wanted to be a manager. So I was training both sides of that, and you were the person that came in and trained the stage performance part of that. And you're on that episode. I don't know if you can still find them on the internet or not, but I think that episode is called Darling Divas on the TLC network, and I think the show was a makeover story.
I do not remember that, but
Yeah, it was in Orlando at that Star Showcase.
yeah, no, I remember those. I just don't remember that specific thing.
Yeah,
But
well, it was pretty cool. Let me ask you this, because I've known you a while, but for people that are just getting to know you, and I'm still amazed that as well known as you are, there are still people, still artists, still performers that have no idea who you are and what you do, that need to know who you are and what you do. So how did you even get the idea that you should be involved in the producing of stage performance?
well, long story short, I think there were two things. Well, first of all, by the grace of God, that's the first thing, and I mean that. Um, but the first thing was I played with a band that really a progressive rock band in my playing days, and we really stretched and took songs, and we didn't have any limits. We didn't have this 3.5 minute thing, so I learned to arrange songs and try new things while playing with that band. Then about 5 years later, I went out on a touring a thing called Young American Showcase.
Oh yeah, I've
And
seen that at my high school. They do an assembly during the day, and then they come back that night.
yep, that was
Yep.
it. I went out and did it for 1 year. And I remember one night, it was actually a Saturday afternoon, we were playing football, the band. We're all set up. I think we had like 1,300. It wasn't a huge act, but we would sell anywhere from 200 to 1,500 seats for our show at night. And our drummer broke his arm while we're out just messing around playing football on Saturday afternoon. We're in this like third-indary market, not even a secondary market. We're in the middle of nowhere, but we had sold a lot of tickets. And here we have a dilemma. He broke his arm, and we have a show in 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Well, we got him a sling, got him hooked up, and he played with one arm. And he wasn't even a good drummer with 2 arms. But I remember playing the first song, and I'm standing on stage. I played bass, and I'm sweating bullets because it is terrible. We weren't tight. It was just a joke. No dynamics. It was terrible. And I'm sweating bullets on stage. I'm thinking they're going to start throwing things at us. We finished the first song, and we got a standing ovation. And it opened my eyes to what? Whoa! Why? Didn't they hear what we were playing? Didn't you? And I realized what the audience pays attention to is different than what musicians pay attention to in most cases.
Yeah, the audience is not going to know about Swiss triplets.
Well, no, yeah, they don't care. Is that a Mixolydian scale? What kind of gear somebody uses? They don't care about any of that stuff, how tight the band is. Now, you want to be good, obviously.
Because they'll notice when you're not.
But it's just a different perspective. So I started looking at the shows from the audience perspective, and that's where this thing kind of began. It was like an aha moment for me while I was out on tour, and I started looking at it. What was the audience paying attention to? So sometimes I'm calling myself a marriage counselor now. Like the husband is on stage and the wife is the audience, or vice versa. And so when you speak, I don't know about you, Terry, but sometimes when I say red, my other half hears blue.
Your wife allows you to speak?
No, but the point is, I'm trying to communicate something as an artist is, and it becomes so frustrating when the audience doesn't get it. Now, let me say this.
Yeah, and they can be on 2 different pages sometimes.
A lot of the time, if you don't lead them, if you can't speak the language of the audience. So what I do is I sit out there and watch what the audience is paying attention to. I know what the musicians are thinking because I was one and played for years. And so what I do is put it in a language from the stage, both musically and visually, that the audience can get it. And so far, so good after more than 2 decades of doing this.
Well, and you just have some great techniques that are definitely Tom Jackson techniques that I've seen over the years, and I still see them. I mean, even to this day, any video I see of the Eras tour, I still see those kind of moments, or things I see of Shawn, or even in the group, the Martins that we worked with at the time. I think Brian still works with, and I still see those things on stage. For instance, the zoning your audience, and which is a big deal. You're coming out and you are able to see the audience in such a way that nobody in that audience feels left out, because you're staring them in the eyes in the way that you're zoning the audience. And can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's called, one-on-one communication, and then there's zone communication. And it depends on the size of the room, but you break the room up into zones. Now, this is obviously if you've got the time to do this, like you're doing a full show. But you break the audience up into zones, and you start connecting one-on-one with somebody in that zone. And everyone in that zone feels like you're looking at them. And they feel a part of the show. And one of the things that people respond to is, and this is not a musical thing, that's the irony. But everyone feels a part of the show, which is one of the reasons they love going to the shows. They're a part of it. And you break it up into zones, and particularly if you're in a band or a group, because then you can cover the whole audience pretty easily if everyone takes the role of intentionally developing zone communication from the stage.
Between the bass player, the guitarist, even the drummer in the back, and of course the lead singer, he's there in the middle. He has a lot of places he can go. But I go to see bands and I see the singer doing his job, but the bass player and the guitarist and even the drummer have no idea of their part of the show and how they can affect the right side of the room or the left side of the room, depending on where they are. Another thing that I see with aspiring artists who this is something I think that I learned from you, but I liked, and we used it in management sometime, is that there's a difference between, this part I know is yours, song list and creating moments. And a lot of artists just think when they go out there, if they just go off a song list, you have 15 to 20 songs or depending on, the opener or the headliner, and all those songs can tend to look alike.
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the biggest things that bands do. Anyone does. When I'm teaching at a conference, one of the questions I ask is, so how many of you, when you play your songs, they all sound alike? And you hear them go, no, and they're incredulous. Our songs don't sound the same. And then I'll say, well, then why do they all look the same?
Right.
And you can hear a pin drop in the room because they're convicted. They do. Most artists do the same thing over and over. It just doesn't matter what it's a fast song, a slow song, whatever it is. So we don't have any creativity visually. And the song is always the script. In other words, should you be running around the stage on a ballad? No. But should you be meandering around the stage on a rocker? No, it's the same thing. It's, your songs don't, communication is 15% content. Now this is from the stage. 15%, the words you're singing. 30% is tone or emotion, how passionate you deliver something with. 55% is what the audience sees with their eyes. And most artists, like I said, after 3 songs, the audience has seen, not heard, the whole show. And so particularly if you're an unknown artist, I have a thing where are you dating your audience or are you married to your audience?
Yeah, courting or married. I remember this from you.
I remember, Taylor Swift is married to her audience. All the artists that are popular are married, meaning they'll come out and the audience will jump to their feet and start singing along. You come out if you're an indie artist and they'll just do this. They'll look up at you trying to decide if they like you. Where people who are married to their audience, they like them before they even come out on stage. So you've got to have a psychology to the set list to draw the audience in and to be able to listen to your audience and keep it creative. And it's not choreography. Do I do any movement on stage? I do, but now let me say this. I'll bring in a choreographer on a couple songs, depending on the group, probably a pop group or something. But no, it's not choreography. It's just being creative visually with what you have on stage. It's like this. If you were an artist right now, Terry, and you asked me to run lights for your show tonight, I would say, oh, whoa. I don't know your material, Terry, so find somebody that does. And you'll go, Tom, don't worry about it. There's only 3 big buttons on the lighting board. One's the red button. The red button, when you hit the red button, lasers, there's explosions. It's fantastic. You hit the green button, pulsing. Kind of groove, not too high, not too low. And then a blue button, and there's one light that comes from heaven, and smoke comes up out of the ground. So if you're playing a ballad, would you hit the red button? No, you'd hit the blue button. But here's what most artists do. And what I mean by that is that's lighting. And most independent artists don't have that kind of lighting. So you've got to do it with your body. You've got to direct the audience's attention with what you're doing on stage. So if it's rocking, you need to learn how to move on stage. Like movement this way means more than movement this way. You got to get comfortable with your body. You've got to understand there's 5 places, what I call destinations on stage. And if you don't know what those destinations are, here's what you'll do, which is almost what everybody does. They just wander on stage. They go to a place for a while and sing, and then they go over here, and then after a while, again, it's what I call a Chinese water torture. The pressure on the audience never changes.
Yes.
And that's not a good thing. It'll start
No,
putting
it's not.
people. Yeah.
And I've seen that
So
a lot. And the the thing with even movement, talking about choreographers, some people are dancers and they do it great, and you should be great if you're going to have that in your act.
yeah.
But I've seen people use choreography without these kind of techniques, and there've been some famous artists. You'll go there and it's a whole show about dancing, but at the end you just felt nothing or meant nothing. And I've heard people complain about tours this year that were like that. And you were talking about Taylor, who was one of your clients. That was one thing about her. I've heard her in interviews where she says, "I'm not really a dancer," and she still has dance moments in her show, but she does them without being over the top dancer. She does it with movement that is not over the top dancing, and it doesn't look awkward, and it
Well,
works for the segments.
yeah. It's kept simple because she is not a dancer. You're
Well,
right,
she
but
says that, yeah,
yeah. No, you know what? Going back to the psychology of the show, to me, that is a huge part. Well, here's what most artists will do. They will, and now I'm talking indie artists. Uh, to be honest with you, some of them are even signed. They do this because I work at a couple of rehearsal studios here in town, and I listen or watch their rehearsals, and they don't know what they're doing. So the idea is, in putting a show together, is you want to have an opener, you want to have a closer, you want to have a touching moment, you want to have a fun moment, you want to have musical moments. But here's what most, and then you work them out. You rearrange the songs, and those moments are inside your songs. And what I do, here's probably the job I do the most. I get music from artists, sometimes even ask for the music without vocals or without certain instruments, or I'll just EQ it different so I can listen to them. And inside those songs are moments waiting to be cracked open, and the artist doesn't crack them open. That's what I get paid to do. It's like, oh my gosh, here's a cool groove in this song. But here's the problem with that cool groove. There's vocals going on over it. There's guitars going on over it. There's stuff going on over that groove. What I'll do is I'll go, wait. Let's just develop this groove and let people land. There's not one person I've ever met in my life that does not like to groove in some way. It doesn't have to be
right,
groove like hip hop, but I mean, there's all kinds of different grooves. But you actually dedicate part of the song to just the groove, and then you start building on the groove, and you bring the audience along in that buildup. All of a sudden, after 45 seconds of a cool groove going on, then you bring in the bass player, and he steps up and plays, and then the guitar player will come up to the front of the stage, and now the audience is following you, building the song instead of just giving it to them, boom, like that. And then telling the audience, go ahead and figure it out for yourself. Figure out what's going on. How many times have you heard in a studio some very cool background vocals? There's something going on. But the only person that knows they're really there is the artist and the
right.
producer. So I'll take those background vocals, strip stuff down, and bring them out front for 20, 30, 40, depends how long the moment we create can be. And then you build these moments. You take a song and you make a fun moment out of something they could sing back to you. Or, I mean, there's a lot of ways to have fun on stage. Then you find a touching moment and you strip it down. You take away in this day and age. And boy, I just worked with an artist, and I won't say who it is, and she's real popular. She's selling about 3,000 seats. And she has this song that's really personal to her, and it was recorded really beautifully. And I said, I want to take the recording away, because nowadays there's a lot of tracks that are being played along with the artists. And I wanted to strip it down to nothing, and she threw a fit. And then I said, listen, just try it. And we tried it, and after about 20 minutes, she was crying. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, this
I've seen
really
this in action with you.
Yeah, this really makes a difference.
Yeah,
So it's knowing how to rearrange the songs. But here was where I was headed, Terry, and this is kind of early morning for me. Is that we go into the rehearsal room. I'm talking about to the independent artists here. We go into the rehearsal room where we rehearse, and then we go out on stage and we wing it. And like you're right, 15 minutes beforehand, that half hour before, you write out a song list, put it on the stage, and then we go out on stage and wing it and hope something good is going to happen. And here's the problem. Every once in a while, it does. There's a night when it's magical. The planets align. You can hear the monitors, and it's a love fest in the room. And you're like, yeah, and that's why you're playing live music. That those moments where you just make that unbelievable connection. But here's the problem: the next night you go out and play the same set, and it doesn't happen, and you don't know why it happened one night and it didn't happen the next. And this is going to sound arrogant, but the truth is, I do.
And you will say it.
Yeah, and you can create those moments every night, and even on a bad night, you can still win.
And when we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how they can find out about those moments. I'm going to run through some of that with you. And right now, we're just going to take a quick break for our sponsors and our friends. And when we come back, we'll talk more to Tom, and you'll find out how you can get more information from him, how you can get his books and his products. See you in a minute.
Take me away.
Welcome back to this segment of What's Trending Now on rBeatz Radio, streaming and media network. Upcoming local, national, and international concerts. Starting off with Starlight on 22nd Street is hosting its annual singer-songwriter meetup on Wednesday, September 18th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., along with a variety opening mics starting at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. You can learn more at starlighton22nd.com. Black Box Theater presents Easy Bakes 360 with Chef Boy rBeatz starting on Friday, September 27th. Doors open at 10 p.m. You can get your tickets at blackboxcharlotte.com. Tori Kelly sets out on her Purple Skies tour. You can get your tickets at livenation.com. If you're local to Charlotte, catch her performing at the Fillmore on Friday, October 11th. Doors open at 8 p.m. This is Annalise Pearl, bringing you the dankiest of details on the latest trending water cooler conversations. Stay on top with the rBeatz app and rBeatz.com. With this week on rBTZ TV Originals on YouTube and rBeatz.com, we have on We Talk Raw special guest Chris Gear, hosted by Jennifer Busco. They perform live together as Jennifer talks new album, new music, and kicks up some dirt with Chris. Also on rBTZ TV Originals, YouTube, and rBeatz.com, you can catch the spiciest shakedown of local music somewhere with our special guest and creator of Spider Grip, Phone Grips, and recording artist David Britt. Hosted by one of our favorites, Terry Hudson. Always bringing the best of the best, independent, national, and international music artists, concerts, and influences on the rBeatz app. Let's get started with this week's DJ World Beats Trending Songs. Spinning now on USA Heroes, our classic rock and country station, DJ World Beats brings you Reality Suit, Insane, Louis Lee, Life I Lead. We've got Chris Gear with QC Outlaws featuring SMM, Big Mauve. Chris Gear, Nate Clay, and Country Boy Swag. Chris Gear with Prophecy with their song Too Good. Trending now on rBeatz Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have Gabriel Point and Ta Wolfden featuring Yasmin Jane with Body, and Serial with Way Down Low. Hitting hard on 25A366, our global pop stream, we have Jay Steffens, Body Favors, and St. John with Circles. Closing out on We Global Radio, we have Shuazi with Wiz Khalifa, Smoke Too Soon, MO3 and That Mexican OT, AR featuring Big X The Plug, Mary J. Blige, Breathing with Fabulous, Jason Jett, I Tried, Jason Jett, Yo Major, and Tony Teaspoon with Seize the Moment. That concludes this week's countdown. Don't forget to check the rBeatz Only Bangers Hits Different exclusive DJ World Beats playlist on Spotify.
Hey, music lovers, prepare to have your mind blown by the freshest beats around. Whether you're a seasoned raver or just someone who loves to feel the rhythm, we've got something special for you. Introducing Only Bangers, Hits Different by rBeatz Radio on Spotify. This isn't just another playlist, it's a carefully curated collection of the hottest tracks that are guaranteed to elevate your mood and get your body moving. Curated by DJ rBeatz and friends, Only Bangers is packed with tracks that'll keep you dancing all night long. These are handpicked by some of the best DJs in the world. Imagine the sickest drops, the most insane bass lines, and melodies that'll have you hooked from the first beat. You won't be able to resist the urge to move, to dance, to lose yourself in the music. It's like the soundtrack to the best night of your life, playing on repeat. Each track is a gem, a banger that will make you want to hit replay over and over again. And here's the best part. rBeatz Radio knows what you want. A Spotify playlist for your listening pleasure. No fillers, just thrillers. Imagine having access to the best music anytime, anywhere. So why settle for mediocre when you can have the ultimate listening experience right in your earbuds? Thank you for sharing the love, and thank you rBeatz.com for bringing the heat. With Only Bangers, you're not just listening to music, you're experiencing it. You can also head over to rBeatz.com and rBeatz on all your favorite listening devices and download the free radio app. A 6-pack of 6 genres, carefully curated for you. Whether you want to search for Only Bangers, Hits Different by rBeatz Radio on Spotify, or download the app on all your favorite listening devices. Trust us, your playlists will never be the same again. Hit play, feel the energy, and let the beats take over. Because with Only Bangers, every moment hits different. So what are you waiting for? Dive into the world of Only Bangers and let the music take you on a journey you'll never forget. Catch you on the dance floor, and thank you for sharing.
Welcome back to the rBeatz studio, rBeatz.com, and we're here on the program Local Music Somewhere, and I have online here with me on the show, live music producer Tom Jackson. And Tom, we were talking about the different moments before we went to break. One of my favorite moments that you do, and it was actually with a Christian band. It's been a while since I've seen them. I think they still have the Winter Jam tour that travels around, but it's the group New Song. And I used to love what was put together for Arise My Love, and then, because it was just, like you said, the lyrics were the script, and it was just done so well that it had you on your feet. It's like a triumphant thing by the end of the song, and you see the audience just jump up together. But the other one was, I can't remember the name of the song, and I know you'll know it, but where, what is it called again?
Rhythm of the World.
Yeah, where you had everybody playing a different instrument than they would normally play. And I think they even added in bagpipes of like instruments from all over the world.
Well, that's a perfect example of how to create a moment. That song was actually #1 on Christian rock radio for 4 weeks. And, but I heard when I was working with it, like an Indian kind of feel and an African feel. There were little elements of it in the back. And so I just pulled them out. It was a 4-minute song. Now I'm going to freak people out, but it turned into a 12 or 13 minute piece is really what it was.
Yeah.
And that became massive for them. I remember doing a showcase that there were at the TPAC here in Nashville, and there were about 10 or 12 artists who were playing, and they had 12 minutes each. And some of these were A artists selling millions of records. And these guys were like a B+ artist. They had some hits, but they never totally took off in the public's eye. But they did a showcase with all these other artists, and everyone. And here's something I'll warn some of the artists out there about: you're given 12 minutes, and their thought and your thought is, how many songs can I cram into 12 minutes? And that's a mistake. So backstage, all these groups are like, okay, we're going to cut the chorus here. We're going to do this. We're going to try to shorten 4 songs to fit into their 12 minutes. I told the band, we're going to play 1 song, and it's going to be the 12-minute piece that we created. And some of them freaked out. Like, no, the song, we've got a #1. They had their #1 song out too at the time. And thankfully, the guy who runs the band, Eddie, he said, no, let's do what Tom says. And sure enough, the next day, the whole buzz was about what had happened. There's bagpipes in it. There's sitar. There's African drums. It was a moment. I mean, it was a huge moment.
Yeah, it was.
And to this day, those guys, here's a perfect example. I'm speaking to you artists now. They do. They own this thing called Winter Jam, which goes into arenas every year. And the
It comes
truth
here to
is,
Charlotte at Spectrum.
yep. And they play for audiences approximately from 12 to 19. That's the main core artists. Audience. Well, they play it every year, and some of these guys are in their 70s, they're in their 60s and 70s. They're old enough to be their grandparents. Yet there's 10 bands on this show, and they are always number one or number two in merchandise sales.
Oh yeah, and they pack huge audiences for this tour. This is not something coming to some little club. It's coming to coliseums and packing out with that age group.
Yeah. They had 40,000 in Atlanta a couple of years ago. They're averaging probably 10,000 or a little less now. But the point is, you got all these young hip groups and then them, but we work up a 22-minute set, and their merchandise sales. Everyone's selling merchandise at this event, and their merchandise is number one or number two. Why? Because we create moments, not because the audience thinks they're hip, because they're not. In fact, they need a hip replacement. But it works. You create moments, and they're number one or number two in merchandise on this tour, and yet you've got all these young acts coming up, big singers, all that, and yet they still outsell their merchandise because the audience is moved emotionally.
A great live show is a great live show.
Yeah.
And, for the aspiring musicians that are out there, or people who just want to learn in particular, they have a child that has told them they want to grow up and do this. I don't think it's ever too young to start, working with them if they're doing that. If they've come to you, you're not trying to make it for them, but they've come to you wanting to do this. You have books, and you have a video series out as well. I want to talk to you about the book. It keeps showing up behind me here. People are seeing that showing up on the screen, which is your live music method. Tell us more about that book. I've actually read this book. It's a long book, but absolutely great investment for an artist.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's an investment. This book should be marked up. Some people mark up their Bibles on important verses and stuff like that. There should be the same thing done with this book, and it should be read over and over and over again, just for reference and reminders, and you'll learn new things. But yeah, it's about 430 pages, dealing with live performance, techniques, how to put a set list together for an hour show, a half-hour show when you have one song. Basically, in a nutshell, my whole theory is you need an architect if you're going to build a house. Well, I have in there the plans for the vision for your show. In other words, they're concepts that will stimulate ideas for you to help you, the artist, write a show. Then, after you've got an architect and you go, okay, I got a vision for my show. I got a plan. I know the psychology of putting a show together. You start putting the show together, inserting your songs into these spaces. So it's almost like paint by numbers at the start. Then you go to, then what should my song shows look like? And then there's all kinds of what I call materials, tools, and skill. The ability to walk, talk, chew gum. There's 4 ways to get places on stage. Does anyone know those? Most people don't. There's walk with authority, skip, and run. And the song is the script. So my point is, I've got the technical things in there. I've got the psychological things in there. I even got the spiritual / emotional things in there. I talk to a lot of people and they're stage fright. They're nervous before they go on. I got a whole chapter dealing on how to overcome stage fright and how I overcome it to this day. And I've had hundreds of people tell me that it's helped them. And then also, the last part of a show needs to be, you want to develop your themes and your characters of your songs. And the themes are the things I'm talking about musically. I heard the bagpipes in that one song, I developed it. So you develop the themes inside your song, but you also develop the characters, and that's you. People come to see people, not just hear music. So one of the things is you want to arrange your songs so that your character can come out. you leave space for your personality to come out. And there's a psychology to it. So anyways, all that stuff's in the book. That, and also how to make a little bit of extra money helping some charities.
Yep, and I'm going to cover that here in a moment. Also, the video series. Do you still have your video series available?
We're going to streaming in the next 3 weeks. I have the All Roads Lead to the Stage video series that's going to go to streaming. I have a singer-songwriter one that's going to streaming. I have other clips from other events that are going to go to streaming too.
Very, very good.
And hopefully the book also will have a, what is it when you, an ebook? No, not an ebook.
Audio book?
Audio, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how I do most of them these days.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, because I didn't know that. So when is that going to be available?
It's being edited as we talk. We're probably a couple months out from being all stuff up and running.
A couple months out? That could be part of Christmas, right?
Yes. I don't think I gave a good description of what the book is, but here's my whole theory. As a musician, and this is why my DVD series was called All Roads Lead to the Stage. As a musician, my goal in life wasn't to go on social networking. My goal wasn't to go into the studio only. My goal in the end was to walk out on stage and affect people. And that's why I wrote the book. How do I walk out on stage, take control of an audience, and help build a career through my live show? I'm not opposed to, like you're saying, social media, radio, all that stuff. But how many times have you heard somebody on the radio, you love them, then you go see them and you're disappointed?
A few times.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, this week.
Yeah. No, but there have been some that blew me away. I wasn't expecting when I got there for them to be as good, but they did the exact things that we're talking about. And one thing about your system, it's kind of flooded over into other people's systems as well. Like I'll see things, and I've even called you, and I'll say, "Did you work with this group?" And you'll say, "Well, I showed them a couple things," but it turned out they had seen all your stuff. They had watched your video series as well, and when you go see them, you see a lot of these techniques in it. It was one of the better shows that I had seen that particular year. It was pretty incredible, and it's because of the techniques and these electronic mediums. These whether it's audiobooks or digital video, or even if it's the physical book, like you said, that they're marking up like a Bible, which I'm a big believer in having the physical book as well with a reference. Anything that I have on an audiobook that needs a lot of reference, I also order the physical book as well, and do just what you say. I'm making a lot of notes with it because it is an educational investment. It's not like buying a novel that you're going to read for a week. It's buying something because this is your dream, this is your career, and you need to know this stuff more than just this year. You're going to have to be reminded of it. You're going to have it internalized, almost to where you could teach it yourself, but you have to have it internalized so that you can do it on stage. You can do the things we're talking about and grow your career. The other thing is, artists are always, they think the only way to get funded is either being paid by the venue or promoter, or have an investment from a record label or something like that. But there's so many other ways now. Some people are raising funds through blockchain. Some people are, they have very creative merch and they're personalizing it, and that's working. You have always had a different take on sponsors. That was one thing that you and I always did with sponsors, but I always liked your unique take on it because it wasn't the normal product sponsors per se, but it was a little bit different. Can you just fill us in on that?
Yeah. I've been doing that for, over 2 decades too. Artists, in a nutshell, artists are, they sponsored by a company, what would you call it? A charity. And it's child sponsorship. You walk out on stage, and whether you're an indie or a major tour, like the major tour we're just talking about, Winter Jam, they're sponsored. And what they do is they go out on stage somewhere in the night and ask people to sponsor a child. And there's multiple companies that do this that I work with. And for every sponsored child, the artist gets a certain amount of money, and rightfully so. because they're the ones out doing the work. They're the ones that's building the audience. So when that charity will pay them for each sponsored child, and it's significant. It's, $150 for every sponsored child because it's a monthly giving program. And I've seen it, dozens and dozens, hundreds of times actually, help an artist keep their career going.
Right.
Or I have independent artists that, they can make an extra $30,000, $40,000 a year doing this. And at the same time, they're helping kids get food, clothing, water, to get healthy, to get sponsored. They don't have the money. And so you make it what we call an appeal from the stage at some point and say, sponsor child tonight. I do it when I teach at CD Baby or I teach at any of these conferences in the country. I will give an appeal. I'll say, tonight you can change the life. I'll tell you. And here's the beautiful part. Then you can give away your merchandise, and the charity will also help you pay for your merchandise too. So at the end of the day, you get a kid sponsored, you make $150, $160. If you sell a CD, you make $10. I'm being crass now, but you make a lot more money getting kids sponsored than you can selling your product.
Helping someone.
And the beautiful
helping.
Yeah, and you're helping them. Yeah, I've gone overseas. I've seen the work these charities do. I've vetted them. We've raised literally billions of dollars for the poor. And we've given hundreds of millions of dollars to artists over the last 30 years. And it's a beautiful thing. Now,
it's a great side of the music industry.
Yeah, it's you got to have multiple streams of revenue, and this is a legit form of revenue that will help an artist keep their career going. It'll help pay the bills. If you're an indie artist in a band, you'll get 2 hotel rooms instead of 1. Things like that. You'll be able to get gas.
How do they find out more about these things, about your product, about your even where to come see you live as far as a seminar, that type of thing? Where do they go?
Well, since we're changing all kinds of stuff on the website, I'm just going to keep it simple and say, go to onstagesuccess.com.
Onstagesuccess.com.
Yeah, and look through the website. You can find out if I'm speaking somewhere, more about the charity. The tour sponsorship is what we call it. And then obviously the products, the streaming thing that's coming up, and the book. And we work with people. Everyone thinks I'm working with just the stars, Taylor and Shawn and this and that. But really, probably our bread and butter is more like the up and coming artist who's getting ready to do a showcase. Just worked with you check these guys out. Erin Kinsey, she's a country pop artist. I've worked with her since she's 12. And she's building her audience one fan at a time live. So our bread and butter really is the mid-range artist, and then every once in a while you've got some of the major artists that call and say, yeah, we need some help. It's hard for them to say that.
But yeah, well, that's very good to know. I know you've told me many times that you're not a morning person, and you're in Nashville, and you woke up special for me this morning. So we just want to say thank you, because you are the legend. You are the man, the myth, the Tom Jackson, and it was so great to have you on the program. You know that I appreciate it. I've known you for a long time, and this was a great thing to have you do. Thank you very much.
Hey, anytime, Terry. And next time it'll be in the afternoon, and I'll have a clearer head.
Well, hopefully I'll be in Nashville soon. We'll go to lunch or something. But thank you very much. And thank everybody for tuning in. Join us next time on Local Music Somewhere here on rBeatz. Tell your friends about rBeatz. Make sure you tell your friends also to download the app, and you can listen and stream to your favorite indie artists. I mean, this is the place you're going to discover indie talent, and where indie talent is going to discover how to grow their platform here on rBeatz.com and Local Music Somewhere. Till next time, much love. Thanks.